Ari Hoffman, welcome back to Undivided.
Always a pleasure, Brandi. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. You've been all over the place. You were in North Carolina, UNC Charlotte.
Yep.
Who invited you there to speak?
The Turning Point USA kids did. I work with Turning Point USA a lot. They're a conservative activist organization for college kids. They talk about politics and stuff on college campuses. And they're good kids. They talk a lot about religious values as well. And I've spoken for them at University of Washington. I've gone to a few of their conventions. I broadcasted from their conventions. And a lot of these kids are having questions about the Israel stuff.
Yeah.
So what was interesting was UW had booked me before October 7th. They had booked me before any of that. And then when October 7th rolled around, they said, well, now we kind of got to talk about this. So we had a great talk about that. And I guess they put out the word to other Turning Point chapters, hey, if you need somebody on Israel, get this guy. So the first one that called, and there's been a few others, but the first one that called was UNC of Charlotte. And they said, hey, can you come out and talk to the kids? And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. So I was there for a grand total of 36 hours yesterday.
Yeah, in and out. I know we were kind of in touch on some other things, and you're like, I'm going to be on a plane and all this and make it happen. But so whenever Turning Point USA goes onto a college campus, there's a lot of like protests, no matter what the speech is about. It's like, It's Turning Point USA speech. Like, let's get over there and rile up or whatever. So did you anticipate some level of that?
Yes, but not to the level it was.
Wow.
Because here's the thing about Turning Point USA. They have their tables. They do tabling like any other college campus group, and they have their events. But it's when the speakers come out is when the activists really go bonkers crazy.
Yeah.
Now, these activists had done their homework. We've spoken before about my crusade, I guess you can call it, to reveal who all these psychos are who are teachers, who are pushing this pro-Hamas narrative. Every single activist who was there to protest me, and there were 100 of them waiting outside, they had to sneak me in a different entrance and take me out a different exit. And I got to say, campus security was great. And the dean of the university actually came by to see all this for herself. And she was phenomenal. This is very different than what I'm used to. I'm usually used to the police at the campuses are told not to show up or not to do anything or be in the shadows. They had a whole evacuation plan. The dean was there, and the dean was horrified by the behavior of these other students. But what was happening on campus was there were 100 of them waiting for me. They all had their faces covered, and they were calling me the Zionist doxer. Now, I think they put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, because does that mean I'm doxing Zionists? I'm very confused by that. But they all painted their hands red with blood, which was actually kind of funny, because when they tried grabbing the microphone, they couldn't because their hands have all the gooey stuff on it. So Q&A was kind of a mess for that reason. That was kind of entertaining. They're all wrapped in Hamas keffiyehs. But here's something else interesting, Brandi. The signs they had, with the exception of the Kashama Sawant signs that we see out here at University of Washington, the banners, the signs, the chants are identical. Now, I know from when I used to work for national Jewish organizations that had clubs on campuses and had clubs in public schools, you had a template. And your template was for your banners. Here's our Hanukkah party. Here's our Purim party. Here's our Passover party. You had templates you could use to print this stuff up, and here's your money. This stuff is being coordinated on a national level when the flyers, when the chants, when the banners are exactly the same in North Carolina that we see here at University of Washington.
Do you think, though, some of that's just they see it on social media and they're like, oh, that's what I'm going to chant?
Well, the chants, I mean, it's the same refrains they have, but we've actually revealed certain organizations like this organization Within Our Lifetime, which are the ones that vandalized the New York Public Library. And they're the ones who have also targeted the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. And they're the ones who have been involved in a lot of the stuff in New York. They have released a toolkit with how to plan one of these pro-Hamas activists. And they're not the only group that's doing this. But if you look at all these different toolkits, and I think I've seen 3 or 4 of them, they all have templates. They have templates for flyers. They have templates for banners. They all have the same chants. This stuff is being pushed nationally.
I saw a video with you were actually speaking in the building, and you had said it was maybe 20 minutes into your speech where a lot of these pro-Hamas sympathizer students got up and walked out. Was there something that led to them walking out at that moment? Were they told to leave?
I think this was a planned thing. Like, we're going to heckle him for 20 minutes and then we're all going to show unity and walk out. I think that's really what it was. I was expecting that. It seemed kind of pre-orchestrated, pre-planned. And a few of them stayed for Q&A, and all of them had prepared questions. You could tell which ones are the hardcore radicals. You could tell which ones actually came thinking they were going to talk, because the ones that wanted to talk stuck around, and as their narrative crumbled, didn't really know what to ask next. as I shot down their arguments one at a time. One kid, this was my favorite. I'm a huge Mets fan. I'm from New York originally. He's wearing a Mets sweatshirt in the room. And he was heckling me, and I point to him and I go, dude, you're a Mets fan? I'm a Mets fan. You know why? They support Israel. Their owner is Jewish and gives a ton of money to Israel, and they started a Major League Baseball franchise in Israel. Didn't work because they like soccer more. So really, thank you for supporting Israel. And he tore off the sweatshirt right there. So I think our mutual friend Matt Gilbert said, oh, look at that. The Mets are still taking losses in the offseason.
When you say that they're doing you can tell the difference between who are the kind of extreme radicals. How many of these kids do you feel like, or felt like based on what they said or questions they asked, actually had a firm grasp on the situation?
None of them. None of them at all. There were some activists who I saw in the parking garage. So they were coming from off campus, whether they were students or not. But it's the same kind of thing you see at UW, where outside people come to be part of these protests. The narrative they are using is the one that Hamas is using. Oh, nobody was tortured, executed, and raped on October 7th. The Israeli army did it. That's the new one. We're literally watching Holocaust denial happening in real time. Look, it took 75 years for that really to happen with the actual Holocaust. And now you're seeing it happen, 6 weeks, 7 weeks later? These are the new narratives coming out. And if you notice, you don't see any of the women's groups talking about any of the rape. What happened to the Me Too movement? Why haven't we heard from any of them? You're not seeing that at all. And these are some of the worst atrocities committed in the history of mankind.
Yeah. What was your, going into it? What is the message that you wanted to share with those students?
What I started talking about, and I took some of the kids for coffee afterwards, was I was telling them is that people don't like things that conflict with their narrative. They're the me generation, the iPhone generation, where they can have their own news the way they want it, their music the way they want their social circle. They don't have to go to parties. They can have their friends in their pocket. It's not like our day where if you want to be social, you had to go hang out with people you liked and people you didn't like. They can tailor their worlds around them, and they don't like things that conflict with their worldviews. So the people who are ripping down posters, some of them are like, this makes me feel angry because I think I'm right and this conflicts with it, gone. There's other people who are doing it for more malicious reasons. But you see that online too. They can't accept the fact that they might be wrong. They live in their echo chamber and they see no reason to come out of it.
Yeah, let's end with this. Campus Reform was out with an article, it was a study saying that 1 in 5 students on college campuses are sympathetic toward Hamas. Does that ring true to you?
That sounds about right. And I think something that we need to study is also today, we had a whole bunch of the high schools here have walkouts in the Issaquah School District. And we had them in the Snoqualmie School District last week, and Bellevue's planning it for next week. So how many of these high school kids are being brainwashed the exact same way? Now, college campuses is different because you have a lot of foreign students as well. And we don't know what countries they came from. Did they come from some of these countries that are supportive of Hamas, that are supporting Hamas? Are they here on student visas? I'm not going to go down the immigration rabbit hole. But the question is, are they U.S. college students? Or are they from somewhere else? But yeah, that statistic scarily sounds right. And I also want to know how many of the faculty feel the same way.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we'll ever find out, but some of them post more than perhaps they should, and I'm glad you're exposing them because I think that's important. All right, Ari Hoffman, I told you this when you went over there. Proud of you for standing up for this, for speaking out. 100 protesters be damned, and we appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Brandi. Always a pleasure.